And good Friday morning. It's WKRK 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, cable TV channel 25, and worldwide we're at country.am. 11:05 our time. We're looking at about 64 degrees. No, we're not. 74 degrees. I looked at the one that was broken. For anyone who's watching channel 25, it's been saying 64 and pouring the rain. That got hit by lightning last week, and the airport has called people in to fix that problem. I think they're having to come in from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm not sure when they're going to come, but the temperature at the airport was that equipment was struck by lightning last week. It's right now 74 degrees here in downtown Murphy, and now we're all in the know.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sheriff. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was watching at the weather radar coming through there, and it may rain sometime this evening or tomorrow, it looks like. And if it does, we may get 64 and rain at some point.
So that might become accurate once again.
At some point, it may be.
At some point, yeah, you can believe that
Right.
whenever that happens. But I was talking about that on Party Line this morning. One of the callers was noticing that as well. I said, had it been pouring rain this whole time that's been showing rain, we would have had to call Noah for his plans for the ark.
Well, what's so funny about it, I was sitting there watching it, didn't even pay attention that it was saying rain. I never picked up on it.
It's amazing how many phone calls we've gotten. The cable company has gotten about that one little section of
Right.
our TV screen. People watch that for some reason. Well, I'm glad that people are using that.
I'm glad they are too.
Yeah. So, but everything else on the screen is accurate. Just that bottom left corner with the temperature and the rain, that will be updated soon.
Well,
hopefully.
it looks like also that our temperatures next week may drop a little bit. I heard on the radio this morning that possibly by next Wednesday it could be back down in the high 40s, low 50s by next Wednesday for the lows. And I thought, are we ever going to get out of this and get into summertime?
it's an odd weather we've received. A very mild winter,
Right.
and then the spring we'll have 80 degrees one day and snowing the next day. So interesting.
I saw a little a picture one time on Facebook that I thought it was very appropriate. It said weather in Cherokee County, and it had a home where it had snowed, and the snow was off the roof and on the ground, but where the sun was shining, it had melted everything. Mm-hmm. And then on one side of the snow line, it had somebody sitting with a coat and a lawn chair with toboggans and gloves on. And on the other side of the line, it had somebody in flip-flops and a tank top and a pair of shorts. And
That's fun.
And it said, "Welcome to weather in Cherokee County." And that's about accurate some days.
I shared one time. It was showing a snow-covered field, and the guy was mowing his grass. You could see the green grass in the
Right.
snow. And welcome to Murphy.
Right.
Interesting weather. So how you been? You've had a very busy week.
We
this
have.
week.
It's been busy. Our guys have been working real hard. As always, we continue to fight drugs each and every day, and that's a big issue in our county. I wish we had answers and solutions to all the problems. Unfortunately, it's something we're going to continue to have to work on, and we don't have all the solutions for that. But it doesn't keep us from trying. It doesn't keep us from keep working. So our narcotics unit is out every day, every night, and sometimes I got to give a shout out to those guys and gals, because sometimes they show up at work at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and they're still out at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning working on things, and days all day, all weekend, Sundays, and they're just out working all the time. And unfortunately, the drug situation doesn't stop, and when it's happening, they have to be out there to try to deal with it. And I also give hats off to our patrol units also, because they have really stepped up their game and making a lot of arrests and stopping cars and searching cars. And, we've got our K9 units are now operational, and we've got 2 K9s that's out of a nighttime. We've got one of a daytime that's out, and we have K9s available for drug sniffing whenever officers need them. And got a very good relationship with Murphy and Andrews police departments, and they use us a lot, and we work with them a lot. So we're working, everything's clicking along. It's just a supply and demand thing. As long as people demand it, there's going to be a supply. And so we just have to keep plugging along at it and keep working.
By the way, I just want to take a moment here on our show today to thank you, your office, and the Murphy Police Department with all the help that you gave. We've seen a lot of each other these last few weeks. Derek's probably thinking I'm just tired of seeing
Well, it's
Tim.
funny because when, for y'all out there listening, when Tim sends me a text and I'm at home and I'm in my recliner watching TV and the phone goes off and I say it's from Tim, I look at my wife and I say it's from my BFF. And she knows exactly who I'm talking about.
All right.
Yeah.
And last night you did not respond to my text message,
Right.
and I was
No,
upset about that.
I ignored you last night.
I was needing some help last night,
Right.
and the sheriff totally ignored me.
Yeah, I was actually working on a project last night and was out of phone range and didn't see it till I got back to the house. But But that's the excuse I'm going to use anyway.
Yeah, it was a snake-related issue, and I knew he was not going to respond.
Right.
So I sent him a picture of the snake, and we had fun. Another station was having an off-air issue, and we're good friends. We're competitors, but we're great friends. And they called to help them get back on the air. And I said, "What's the problem?" "Our transmitter's off the air." "Okay, but what's the problem?" "Well, there's something in there." What's in there? And then Chuck posted a picture, and I was in Blairsville. He posted a picture of this 10 to 12 foot black snake that
It was a huge black snake.
it was. He said it's the largest snake he's ever seen, and it was a black snake. It was still trying to bite him, and I had to thank him this morning for making sure that was gone before I arrived at their station.
I think it was a black python.
Yeah.
Boa constrictor
If
or
it was,
something.
if I had walked into that transmitter building and a snake was looking at me, we would
Right.
have had an ER visit, I'm sure. But he took care. He got a plastic bag around his hand. He caught it around the neck and put it back in the field, let it go. So,
Well, that was good for him.
And I explained to him how terrified I am of snakes, and he understood that. And then he was being quite sincere. He goes, "I think there's another one up there on the shelf up there. I can't see it, but I can hear it." So I'm working in this building knowing that there might be a second snake in there.
Could slide out anytime. Yeah.
But problem solved.
At least he got the snake out and got back on air.
And it was.
Now, one thing I didn't know,
time.
about, a little trivia thing about snakes, a lot of people don't realize is that when you're, especially like if you got riding mowers and those things that you keep in your sheds, always check the batteries before you get on them and start mowing, because what snakes have the ability to do, and a lot of people don't realize this, is they have just enough moisture in their skin that they can crawl up on a battery, if it's a car battery or lawnmower battery or four-wheeler or anything, and if they can touch the positive and negative post, it runs just enough current through their body to warm them up, to keep them warm. Yeah. And so if you'll watch when they crawl up into cars, when they crawl up into lawnmowers, things of that nature, typically the battery's the place they go to. They'll curl around the battery and lay on the battery, and I've been told they draw that electric current through if they touch the positive and negative post.
Well, I just assumed that he had just gotten inside their FM transmitter over there just to stay warm.
Yeah.
There's a nice little warm cubby hole over there. So, and he had gotten up and knocked a 2x4 down, which did some other damage. But anyway.
Well, I hate that I missed that.
I hate that you did too. I was this close to calling 911 and having you dispatched, but especially when you ignored my text.
Yeah.
Did you listen to Party Line by chance this morning?
Bits and pieces of it. I didn't listen to all the Party Line.
Did you hear a special guest on this morning by chance?
I did not.
Well, good, because we're going to replay that clip right
Okay.
now, because you might be interested in this.
Okay.
All right, let's go ahead and play this clip right now, because Sheriff Palmer is involved.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we're going to be helping out with the Relay for Life tonight. We've been asked to do the jail and bail, which it's a fundraiser that the sheriff's office normally does every year, but this year they've asked us to kind of assist with that. So we're going to be putting people in jail for a good cause.
All right. So how does this work? Does someone nominate someone?
Well, we actually use a dog kennel donated by Lowe's. So we actually have that, and we'll have some warrants put together. And people can stop by for a fee, and they can fill out those warrants for people that are in the park. And law enforcement will go pick those people up and bring them back to the dog kennel and put them in jail for probably about 15 minutes. 15
minutes. How much time do you think Sheriff Derek Palmer is going to spend in jail tonight?
I'd say he'll spend quite a bit of time tonight in there.
And all the money's for a good cause, so yeah, we'd love to see him in there. Yes. And tell us about the Relay for Life, what time it starts, and what all is going to be happening there that you know about.
Well, the relay starts tonight. I think the survivor registration starts at 6 p.m. I think they're going to start the opening ceremonies at 7. And Andrew Chastain's going to be singing tonight at 8 o'clock. We'll be there. We're going to start setting up pretty early today. And starting around 6 o'clock, we'll be starting to take people to jail.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And do they have to pay to get out, or what?
They can pay to get out. they can stay in for 15 minutes, or they can post a bond and get out a little bit early. So
Sheriff, you might want to take some extra cash with you, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to be on the show this morning. I may even play this clip for him. Yeah. So when he gets here on his show, we'll keep on promoting this, and but so someone could actually put you in jail too, right? Or are you working?
I'll be working it, so I don't know if I'll be able to.
We'll see what we can do.
Right.
Yeah, I can see Dustin and all of our great law enforcement officers behind bars.
Yeah. It's for a good cause, and it's fun, and it normally raises quite a bit of money for the Relay for Life. It's a good opportunity for us to get out in the community. Law enforcement a lot gets a bad name, and we like to get out in the community and show people that we're human too, and we like to let people see this side of us.
That's one thing that Dustin and I were talking about last week, is because I'm a media outlet, but I don't consider myself that gotcha kind of media outlet. And people who watch the either the conservative or the liberal news channels, those TV channels and networks, they're looking for ratings, news stories that shock and awe people. And anytime there's a bad story about law enforcement, they're very quick to put it on. But there are so many great things that you guys do that don't bring in ratings, but it's to serve your community, to serve and protect, and there's so much great things out there. So I'm glad you're able to and willing to come talk about these things and let the people see you how you're shining, instead of just those one or two bad things that happen.
They do happen, and a lot of times, like I said, law enforcement does get the bad name, but we just want to show people that we're there in the good too, and that's what we're there for.
All right. Well, Dustin, anytime we can help you out in any way, you just let us know. We're always glad. We're a community service station, and your whole life is dedicated to community service, so we appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
And that is Dustin Smith, the Assistant Chief of the Murphy Police Department. And Sheriff, it sounds like...
I knew when he texted me this morning and said, "Are you going to be at Jail and Bail tonight?" I knew something was up.
Yeah. Oh, so it looks like you might have a busy evening tonight.
I might have one there.
And any of our listeners out there who want to take out a warrant on Sheriff tonight at the Jail and Bail at the Relay, it's at the Conahita Park?
It's Conahita Park. It is.
So
we normally do that through our Victims Advocacy Program, and Stephanie Swanson's one that normally heads that Jail and Bail portion of that up. I think she's not going to be available tonight. I think her and her family is leaving to go out of town for the night, and so she called us and talked to him about it, and I think that Murphy PD is very eager to pick that up and to do that, and we're thankful for them. I do want to give a shout out to Murphy PD also, that that I've watched them over the years grow into different things, and I think that Dustin and Chief Jacobs has really taken that police department and blossomed it out into a good community-oriented program. And not only are they out protecting people and arresting people, but they do a lot for the community, and especially here in the town of Murphy, they do a lot to getting out and reaching those folks. And the same for Andrews, but I've noticed that Murphy has really stepped up their game and has really done a lot for the community.
And it's so important too that the local town police department and the sheriff's office, because you have such a frequent working relationship. You have to work together, and it's so important that you are able to do that. A lot of times there's, in any kind of job, there's the egos that kind of get in the way of things. But
that relationship have been strained in the past, and not just with the PDs, but also with other agencies, has been strained in the past. And that's one of my goals when I came in, was try to mend those fences and build those relationships. And Dustin will tell you, that we've been at odds, and we've had things that we didn't exactly see eye to eye on, but we're good enough friends. We've worked long enough together. We have a good enough relationship that we can work through those issues and continue on to serve our people that we serve. And I think that's the important thing at the end. Sometimes you can just agree to disagree and move on. But I think at the end of the day, we still have a job to do. We still have people to protect and serve, and we don't need to let egos or problems get in the way of that. We need to continue doing what we know is the right thing to do.
Speaking of working together, your office and the police department, Dustin, had issued yesterday a joint press release.
Right.
It's not often we get a joint press release, but I'm guessing this is, two different jurisdictions is why. Can you tell us about what happened yesterday? I know a lot of people on social media
Right.
has been talking about this situation. And,
Right.
and I'm going to let
I don't know if you have that up there in front of you or not, but I think it was I was trying to think of his middle name. I think it's Mark Newland Patterson. I think he's from Graham County, from Robbinsville. We had actually Murphy PD had received some complaints about some indecent activity occurring in the park there in Conahita Park there in Murphy. And so they started an investigation into that and gathering evidence and talking to people. And
law enforcement investigating lewd and lascivious acts, which I had to look up the word lascivious.
Lascivious, yeah. That's a lawyer's term for things you shouldn't be doing.
So, in a nutshell, he was just being inappropriate.
Being inappropriate toward women, being inappropriate toward children, doing things publicly that you should be doing in private. I'll just leave it at that.
And a lot of this happened at Conahita Park, I understand.
Right, and that's where the complaints first started coming in. And when Murphy PD was looking into this and doing an investigation into that, most of the time, by the time it got reported to them and they got to the park, the perpetrator would be gone, and they just have witnesses' descriptions of vehicles or description of person kind of thing. And they started looking into trying to figure out who this was, and they contacted my office and requested some assistance with that. And so we assisted them with looking into what was going on with the park down there. And we also found that this gentleman that was creating havoc in the park was also involved in some Facebook issues as far as sending inappropriate videos and text messaging and things with ladies in the area by means of Facebook. And so we entered that joint investigation, and Roger Williams, of course, that does all of our computer stuff and internet crimes, he started looking into that and was able to trace down some inappropriate videos and things that was coming from this gentleman, and was able to charge him subsequently with that. And I suspect that they may be further charges coming down the road, but the investigation continues with Murphy Police Department. Like I say, it's just a good working effort between the two of us to not really get hung up on jurisdictional issues and those type of things, but just know that we have a problem in our community and we need to deal with it.
All right. And the press release is posted on WKRK's website and Facebook, and there's a photo of the gentleman there. And let's see. The suspect's name is Mark Newland Patterson.
Newland, yeah.
He is now banned from the areas of Conahita Park, Murphy Riverwalk, and the Town of Murphy Library. And the law enforcement is asking for anyone who has been a victim of a crime by this individual, please come forward and report it, so that law enforcement can do their job in prosecuting through the court system. And if it took place inside the city limits, report it to the Murphy Police Department, and if it took place outside the city limits, then call the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, either one of us will take the initial report, if you come and report that, regardless of where it happened. But just to understand with the jurisdictional issues, that if it happened out in the county outside the city limits, it'll be ultimately up to my office to prosecute, to investigate and bring to prosecution's attention. If it happened within the city, it'll be Murphy Police Department's jurisdiction to investigate that and bring it to the district attorney's attention. So we will try working that back and forth, and we work with each other on that. So either one of us will take the report, but it just helps speed things along if you get the appropriate people right off the bat.
All right, let's talk about the other situation. Let's see, we were on the air last Friday, so this event happened on Saturday after our show, and we posted the press release as soon as your office got it to us. And this was about a shooting and a stabbing by a man named Dallas Wayne Carringer. He's a 25-year-old Murphy, North Carolina man. And there's two separate attacks here. And I was following this information and then following.
This actually occurred in the county, but it wound up being another type of joint investigation that we did with Murphy. It originally started with an argument at Walmart. Basically, it was a situation where there was a relationship that had went awry. And so Mr. Carringer had confronted some people at Walmart. There was a child involved with that. And so there was an verbal altercation that took place at Walmart. The female, her child, and another gentleman had went to her residence down on Candy Mountain, and Mr. Carringer showed up at Candy Mountain in a vehicle with a couple other individuals, and began to open fire on the home and shooting into the residence and shooting at people. Actually, there was gunfire returned from the residence to the vehicle. The victim was struck in the shoulder during the exchange of gunfire. The vehicle sped away, and then we began looking for the suspect. Murphy also became involved in this, not only because it started at Walmart and that they were helping us retrieve video footage of the vehicle and who it was and those type of things, but they also encountered the victim on her way to the hospital coming up through Murphy. They were able to take her and was able to run her to the hospital and to transport her there to get medical attention. So they also assisted in that. Typically we leave everything to the ambulances and for them to transport and whatever, but I think the ambulances responded to the residents and reported the gunfire, but in the meantime they had left. And so the ambulance was making its way down there, and they had made their way to Murphy. So the police department actually took her and was able to transport her to the hospital.
And because she was a victim being transported to the hospital,
right,
and he was still on the loose,
right,
the hospital was on lockdown because
as a precautionary.
Yeah. Rumors started on Facebook.
Right.
We had to clarify that some of those rumors that were posted on their page.
If I could be God for a day, I'd get rid of Facebook. But anyway, go ahead.
I can understand that. But there were rumors that there was a shooter on top of Murphy Medical Center. That wasn't true.
Right.
The suspect never even
went to the hospital.
Got to the hospital,
No.
but the hospital was locked down because a shooting victim
Right.
was there, and the shooter was still on the loose.
Right.
So, I mean, it could be a situation where he could have gone to the hospital.
And I think that was the concern of the hospital staff, was the fact of that if he realized she was at the hospital and had not completed his task, he could show up there and try something there. So they just did the lockdown as a precautionary measure. I saw those same posts and all those things that was floating around out there. But the shooter never was at the hospital. He never came by the hospital. I think one report had him on top of the building shooting at people in the parking lot and all kind of things, But,
yeah. After several hours of trying to keep up with all the comments, I just took a few aspirins and went to bed.
Right. That's basically what I did too. I take a lot of aspirin when it comes to Facebook, but
yes, it can get out of control at a time.
It
but
can.
The next day,
yeah, what had happened was once we identified who he was, trying to figure out who the owner of the vehicle was, who the gentleman in the vehicle with him was, then we were able to start looking throughout the night. They continued to look at places that he was related to, places he would be, friends, family, places the vehicle was seen. So those officers started tracking all those things down through the night. They were unable to locate him. The next day, on Sunday, he actually went to a family residence down on Highway 60 area, down in there. And the family there was trying to get him to turn himself in, to go ahead and turn himself in to law enforcement. He, at the time, was willing to do that, but was scared and was kind of on the fence whether he was going to continue to run for a while or turn himself in. There at that family residence, there was an altercation that came from them trying to persuade him to turn himself in. And then a fight broke out at that residence where he wound up stabbing a family member a couple times. I think at least there was 2 different wounds, or maybe more than that. But it actually stabbed a family member in an attempt to get away from the residence. Law enforcement was called there, and upon arriving down Highway 60, they met the subject walking up 60 and was able to arrest him without incident. He complied, followed all commands, and they were able to take him in custody there without incident.
Can it be released, or is it known if drugs were involved in this?
It doesn't appear to be. I don't know that that's been confirmed or anything at this point. I think it's more of a relationship thing and more of mental mindset and tempers getting out of hand and those kind of things. I think it's more what it boils down to on this incident.
And I had a question too. When people are booked into the detention center, are all the inmates, are they drug tested?
What happens is when a person comes into the detention center, once they're booked, they're asked a series of medical questionnaire questions. It's up to them as to whether they're honest or not honest on
Right.
that questionnaire. One thing about that is those answers and the things that they discuss medical-wise is covered by HIPAA laws, and so they can't be shared within the facility itself or with even staff. Staff can't even share those questions back and forth. But once they're asked those questions, if they indicate they have been on drugs or alcohol, then they go into a detox observation stage where the medical staff observes them and checks their conditions and tests them for what kind of drugs and things they've been taking. If the person is exhibiting signs of drug or alcohol, and even if they don't admit it, they still go through that detox process, trying to make sure that they're safe. So they get medical attention right off the bat, and if there are any indications that there's anything wrong or they're under any kind of substance abuse, they go into that medical portion of the detention center and where they're under observation until it can be determined they're safe to go in the general population.
Okay. I was just thinking
Yeah.
about that last week, if that was a good way to track to see what kind of drugs are in the county.
Right.
But I guess when you do make arrests and find the drugs on the person,
Right.
then that's a good way to track.
Those admissions, those things they talk about as far as their health issues and what they're using and not using, all those things are covered by HIPAA laws. And so
So it's not a mandatory drug test by
there's
going
not a
into jail.
mandatory, but even if there was, or they had every person brought in talks about what they did or whatever, you can't share that information or
Right.
compile that information because it is protected information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. We covered that subject. Call volume is going up tremendously, isn't it?
It is. We saw in 2014 when we took over and the casino opened and the buildings started coming back and the housing market started increasing and jobs started increasing. We started seeing kind of an explosion of population in Cherokee County. So from 2014 to 2015, we saw a huge jump. We saw just an explosion of calls for service. The last year, we was hoping things kind of leveled out a little bit, which for the most part it did. But we're still seeing an increase in calls for service, an increase in that volume. But it's not the drastic jumps that it was before. But one thing I did notice, I ran the numbers at the end of every month. I try to run our statistics and compile those and keep them for our budgetary processes and all those type of things. And I noticed that I ran it. The last time I ran it was on May the 30th, I think at 9 o'clock in the morning, which still had a day and a half left to go. And in 2016, in May of 2016, I'm trying to think what month I was in. In May of 2016, the call volume was around, I think it was around 2,300, 2,400, somewhere along in there, calls for that month. May of this year, of 2017, it was at till a day and a half left, it was at 3,300. So it was about 1,000 more than it was this time last year. That's typically what we're seeing month to month. Is we're seeing anywhere from 500 more calls to 1,000 more calls than we did last year per month. But if there is a good side of this and looking at this, we can also see that we have seen so far this year, we've seen a decrease in breaking and enterings from last year.
That's good news.
And so we saw those breaking and enterings climb and climb and climb and climb. And then this year they're starting to, hopefully they peaked out last year and this year they're starting to decline. And so every month this year to this point has been less than last year, month by month call volume. So we hope that trend continues and hope that it keeps on through the year. And I think the more that we address the drug situation, the drug problems, and get out here and try to make those arrests and curb those things and be visible, we're starting. Hopefully, that's going to make an impact on our breaking and enterings and larcenies and all these other things that we'll start seeing those crime rates come down.
Very good. Yeah. All right. Well, I can see our time has quickly come and gone.
It is.
Anything you wanted to address before we close out?
No, I just wanted to say also last week we didn't talk about it much, but we do want to just still, even though it's a week later, we still want to remember Memorial Day and thank the veterans for everything they had done and those that have sacrificed their lives. And as we talk about this, just a reminder that Veterans Day will be coming up in a few months. There at the Band of Brothers Park there on Pleasant Valley. We'll be having the Vietnam Memorial Wall will be coming. We'll be having a lot of things going on there. So that'll be in October. I know Veterans Day is in November, but this will be in October. So everybody come down and take part in that. We try to do that in October while we still have some decent weather, and hopefully things will still be warm enough, and we won't be too bad of weather, so we can get out there and enjoy ourselves.
Awesome. And don't forget to come out to Conahita Park tonight and put the sheriff in jail.
You had to remind people, didn't you?
Was it a dog kennel is what it was?
I think it was.
Yeah,
I think
put
it's
the
what
sheriff
they're
in a
saying.
dog kennel.
Yeah.
All right. Looking forward to that.
Thank you.
All right, Sheriff. It's WKRK in Murphy, 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, cable TV channel 25, and worldwide we're at country.am. Your weather forecast is next, brought to you by Carpet Mart.
From the WKRK Forecast Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer.